And some of the choir members have even speculated that it might be a Texan thing. I'm never one to shrink from a challenge. And so this is what it might be if it were a Texan thing. I cannot be held accountable for the veracity of what follows. Back when the battle for the Republic of Texas was being fought, there was a famous scout named Deaf Smith. There's quite a bit of legend around Deaf Smith. As a matter of fact, there's a county in Texas named for Deaf Smith. Hereford is the county seat of that county. Deaf Smith was a tremendous scout for the Texans because, being deaf, most people didn't understand whether or not he was able to understand what was going on around him, and so he was a tremendous scout. But he was given the responsibility of bearing the news to the folks meeting in Washington on the brasses trying to draft a constitution for the state of Texas, for the nation of Texas at that time. And so Sam Houston sent Deaf Smith to carry the news of the victory at the Battle of San Jacinto. And he rode his horse hard all the way to San Jacinto and came in and said to the assembly, "Sam Houston told me to tell you to storge." Now, what Sam Houston had actually said was forge, but deaf being deaf, misunderstood. So that's why this word is on the page. Sorry, it was just the story I could concoct between the time of the choir best I could do on short notice. If you believe that story, I've got some beachfront property in Texas. This word, not storage, but storge, is a Greek word. And it's a Greek word for love, but it's one of the Greek words for love that we don't really talk about much in the church. And so I thought I'd bring it up. It's a word that I'll talk about as affection. And that's really the title of the sermon. It's not storge, it's affection. But the Greek lexicon defines storge as affection, especially of parents to offspring, but also of offspring to parents. That's where it begins, that is. That's the root meaning of the word. The word actually expands a bit. And it is spoken of as affection between individuals, a friendship, a affection for another, especially of people who may not be very much like one another. You know, the kind of Mutt and Jeff relationships that you see on occasion. Affection. One of the loves that we'll talk about. Actually, we're going to talk about 3 loves for 3 weeks. And then we're going to get into a Lenten season. But of all of the loves have a need love. That is, there is a need that is expressed when we're talking about this type of love. Plato said of love, we all begin in a position of poverty. We all begin needing love. You might think of affection as a relationship with a mentor and a mentee, with the mentee being the one that is in the position of need. Or you can talk about it as a parent and a child. Again, the child being dependent upon the parent in order to provide what is needed for the child's sustenance and well-being. Most of us would understand it as adults better in the mentee example. Most of us can think of people who really helped us along the way by being a model, or by being an actual instructor, or by being a boss, or perhaps by giving us clues as to how to be a parent. No handbook on parenting has ever worked so well as someone who has experienced parenthood for themselves and can visit with us and commiserate with us and cry with us when we struggle. And if you are a parent who does not struggle, I need to talk to you after the service. We need mentees. Mentees. We are in need of mentors. We have a need that is expressed from a position of weakness, from a position of lack. We have need. That's the need side of love. And in affection, it's clear we need it. We need affirmation. We need recognition. We need a hug. We need someone to come to us and affirm that we are worthwhile in whatever it is that we are endeavoring to be and to do. For a child, at first, it is simply being. Because the child's not doing anything that most of us would consider all that worthwhile. Sleeping is not one of the top 10 things that we pay for in the United States. But we give to that child what they need. That's the gift love side of love. In every one of these, again, whatever the Greek word that we're talking about, the English word for love includes so many meanings that we have to break it down into the Greek in order to get to it. But the gift side of love is kind of like that mentor side. Now, why would a mentor care? Why would a mentor invest any time, effort, or whatever, on whatever occasion to the mentee? Sometimes it's been a puzzle to me as a mentee, wondering why a mentor would invest time in me. I've been fortunate to have many wonderful mentors throughout my life, throughout my career. It's been wonderful that they have been willing to give to me that which I needed at that time, but I've often wondered why in the world they would. And yet, if you are a mentor, you can say it's giving back, perhaps. But you can also say it's worthwhile in its own right. That it is something that is precious to do. Something that is worthwhile doing simply because it expresses our desire to give. I think God has a gift love for us on all kinds of different levels, affection being one way that we can kind of get a hint at it, a clue as to the fact that He loves us. Now, let me be careful here because, after all, we can abuse all these loves. You might have seen, I'm going to use a mother here, it can happen with a father as well, a mother fawning over her child's every need and giving that child without question, without any hesitation, without any consequence, at least in her mind, everything that the child requests. That can be more an act of self-indulgence than a gift. More a way of saying, look what a great mother I am. Look how my child has everything that he or she needs. And it fails to recognize the goal of the exercise, the goal of parenting. We often say we're supposed to raise children. I think that's a misunderstanding. We're trying to raise adults. Right? The goal is to raise an adult, not a child. You don't want the child to remain a child. Parent needs to have a gift love that is pointed toward working themselves out of the position of having to be the parent. A mentor is working toward the day when the mentee no longer needs his or her assistance in order to make it through their profession or their occupation, whatever it may be. The person that is the experienced parent that comes along the inexperienced parent in order to encourage and give guidance and support, hopes and longs for the day when they will not be necessary, and that parent is doing a quite capable job all by themselves. The goal is to graduate that person. Now, we come to Lazarus. Early in his career, the great American playwright Eugene O'Neill wrote the imaginative play Lazarus Laughed. It's about Lazarus' life after Jesus raised him from the dead. Near the beginning of the play, guests from Bethany are gathering for a banquet in Lazarus' honor. They're all desperate to hear what Lazarus has to say about his experience. And as they take their seats, one guest says, the whole look of his face has changed. He is like a stranger from a far land. There is no longer any sorrow in his eyes. They must have forgotten sorrow in the grave. Another guest, one who had helped roll the tombstone aside, recalls the scene after Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead in even more beautiful terms. And then Lazarus knelt and kissed Jesus' feet, and both of them smiled. And Jesus blessed him and called him my brother, and went away. And Lazarus, looking after him, began to laugh softly like a man in love with God. Such a laugh I have never heard. It made my ears drunk. It was like wine. And though I was half dead with fright, I found myself laughing too. God has a love for us. There's a clue to it in storge, in affection. God wants us to graduate. He wants us to mature. We have a need for God's affection. God gives us His affection in order to propel us forward to that day when there will be no more sorrow, when we will know the meaning of true laughter. There's need love, there's gift love, and then there's love that has gone rogue. It is always important for us to consider that love can go wrong, that love can become twisted, that love can begin to resemble something unlovely. C.S. Lewis talks about this in his book, Before Love. He talks about a nearness by likeness and a nearness by approach. You can have a nearness by likeness, that is, we are created in the image of God. And then if we say God is love, and then we say we're in the image of God, then we say, well, we're love too. And that's just part of the package, and there's nothing that'll change it, and let's just go on and have a good time and forget about it. That's some people's philosophy and some people's understanding of Christian faith. But Lewis points out that's a nearness by likeness. It's kind of like, if you can imagine, Sandia Mountain over here, Sandia Crest, without the tramway. You could be on top of Sandia Mountain, on top of the crest there at the top where the ski lodge is, up there on the top. We went skiing yesterday. It was fun. And you could look down on the city of Albuquerque, and you would be very near Albuquerque. You are very near Albuquerque. It's probably the closest major population center to a ski slope there is. That's nearness by likeness. But you need to have a nearness by approach. If you want to go home, and get off of the mountain and get into a cozy, warm bed, and you don't have the tramway, you're going to need to go back to Cedar Crest. You're going to need to go by to Harris, right? Go through to Harris. You're going to need to work your way on I-40 back through the gap in the mountain, through the pass, and get home. That's going to take effort. That's going to take work. You got to get down the mountain. You got to get around the mountain. You got to get through the pass in order to get home. You and I, we may know a bit of God's love, but we have work to do to be transformed by it. It's not enough to just say God is love and we're created in His image. We need to know the love of God that changes us, that makes us capable of loving others in His name. Lewis makes this comment. He says, St. John, saying that God is love, has long been balanced in my mind against the remarkable modern author, M. Denis de Rougemont, that love ceases to be a demon only when he ceases to be a God, which of course can be restated in the form begins to be a demon the moment he begins to be a God. This balance seems to me to be an indispensable safeguard. If we ignore it, the truth that God is love may slyly come to mean for us the converse, that love is God. We need to keep it in order. God is the one that expresses His love as a gift love to us in our need love. He wants us to graduate. He wants us to become more lovely. He wants us to be shown in the light of His love. He wants us to know what it is to pass through death to resurrection, to become a laughing Lazarus, not to go rogue. And in that we shall be full. Sean and Leanne Toohey, the real-life couple portrayed in the movie Blindside, share the following story in their book, In a Heartbeat. They say there's a little-known congressional program that awards internships to young people who have aged out of the foster care system. These are kids who were never adopted and no longer eligible for state support. A senator we've met employed one such man as an intern. One morning, the senator breezed in for a meeting and discovered that his intern was already in the office reorganizing the entire mailroom. The senator said to the intern, "This is amazing. The mailroom never looked so clean. You did a great job." A few minutes later, the senator saw that the intern had tears streaming down his face. He said, "Son, are you okay?" "Yes," the intern replied quietly. "Did I say something to offend you?" "No, sir." "Well then, what's wrong?" The young man said, "That's the first time in my life anyone's told me that I did something good." The Tui's comment, a little bit of attention and a kind word, that's how little it takes to affect the life of someone for the better. God gives us affection. It's a need love for us. All of us are born in poverty. But He gives us His gift love. He expresses His love, not so that we'll take it and twist it and go rogue with it, but so that our life can be full. And if we have a full life, that means that we look for the opportunity to make our need love into a gift love for others. Jesus ate a supper with his disciples right before his death. He communicated in that service that he would give himself completely, fully, totally for them. And that all they had to do to receive that gift was to participate, to partake of what he offered. His body broken, his blood shed. Whenever we come in our need to receive his gift, he makes us full. And so this morning, you're going to have an opportunity to partake of what Jesus has given for you. A display, if you will, of his affection, his story for you. I invite you to consider how you will receive what God has given so freely to you. How you will take it and make it something filling in your life that flows out in love to others.